Thank you and good morning. Candy was calling me out for looking at my watch. Actually, my wrist happened to be itching right in that very spot. So, yes. So, anyway, I do get the pleasure always to introduce the guest speaker, and today is equally as fun. Dr. Gary Ransdall was named the 9th president of Western Kentucky University on September 12, 1997. He will complete his 20th year as presidency with his retirement from WKU on June 30th, 2017. The WKU Board of Regents has approved a President Emeritus title for Dr. Ransdall immediately upon his retirement. Dr. Ransdall has led WKU through a dramatic transformation from a university of regional importance to a leading American university with international reach. Since 1997, WKU enrollment has swelled from 14,500 to 21,000, and annual graduation numbers have grown from 2,500 to 4,200. Additionally, Dr. Ransdall has led numerous transformative initiatives that will leave a lasting impact. Dr. Ransdall currently serves on the Board of Trustees for the Institute for Shipboard Education, which operates the Global Semester at Sea program, where he will begin his new job as President and CEO of Semester at Sea on January 1st, 2018. Help me welcome Dr. Gary Ransdall.
Thank you, Wade, very much. It is great to be back in Owensboro, and Candace and Wade, great job with the Chamber of Commerce here. This chamber has it together. I have the fortunate opportunity to be at a lot of chamber events across the state, and there is no other Rooster booster, I can assure you, and you all do it right here, and so keep up the great work. Very impressive. It's great to see Congressman Guthrie here. Brett, great friend. I'm going to talk a lot about the 2nd Congressional District here in the next few minutes, so I'm delighted that you're here. And I learned this morning coming in, Tom Watson, that you're mayor again. Congratulations. Great job. Yes, I've known Tom for years. So I guess you're mayor 2, like is in Roman numeral 2. So Junior. All right, got it. Sarah Hulse was on the Board of Regents that hired me in 1997, was a great member of our governing board and have been a great friend over the years and a great ambassador for Owensboro. Sarah, it's great to see you again. And Debbie Philman, Debbie's right here. She is the president of our WKU alumni chapter for Owensboro. And by the way, you just see her if you want to buy an Aaron Kaiser Big Red print. She's got them available for sale. How about that, Debbie? I knew I'd get that one in for you. The last 20 years has been an amazing opportunity for me, and I can assure you that for those 20 years as president of WKU, Owensboro has been in the middle of so much of what we have been about. And before I do anything else this morning, I don't know if he's here or not, but I certainly want to acknowledge and thank Reed Hare for his leadership and the role he has played to help make WKU Owensboro and an actual physical campus possible here in Owensboro. So on behalf of the faculty, staff, students, and alumni of WKU, I'm going to thank Reed Hare and Owensboro Davis County Fiscal Court for what they did to help create the Reed Hare building on the WKU campus. Reed, I don't think you're here, but let's give Reed Hare applause in his absence. And Nick, what a great partner you've been, from economic development initiatives and now to city schools, just tremendous friendship and partnership for so many years. You've been involved in so many things that we've had going here in Owensboro, so I want to take this opportunity to thank you as well for your leadership. When I arrived back at WKU in 1997 to return to my alma mater, I was then and certainly am today the only president of the public universities in Kentucky that had the opportunity to serve in this position at his alma mater. And that's been a passion for me and something that I have treasured. And that thread has been woven throughout what I've been focused on these last 20 years. And I've been very fortunate. I arrived with a passage of higher ed reform under Governor Paul Patton in 1997. And that created so many opportunities to make things possible for higher education in Kentucky, and particularly for Western Kentucky University. That legislation focused the state on bachelor's degree attainment and set the stage for major enrollment growth, which that window of opportunity was open, and we bust through it for 10 or 12 years when that growth was not only possible but important and necessary. Since then, it's been my focus to ensure that WKU remained in control of its own destiny as an institution and as a driver of Kentucky's economy. We've been focusing on growing our enrollment, adding programs that are critical to workforce and economic development, including new degree programs in engineering and 4 new doctoral degree programs, new in recent years, in strategic areas that serve Kentucky's workforce needs, particularly in the healthcare professions, expanding opportunities and access at our regional campus locations, growing partnerships with our KCTCS campuses to facilitate transfer and joint admissions agreements, and those partnerships now extend across the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and building an international focus through growth of international students studying at WKU and adding programs that provide an international context to our curriculum and to growing our study abroad programs. We've invested nearly $1 billion in improvements to all 4 of our campuses with WKU in Bowling Green, Glasgow, Elizabethtown, and Owensboro. And we've completed 2 successful capital campaigns which netted over $300 million in new gifts and another couple $100 million in gifts that have come in between and since those campaigns were completed. We've been through good times and bad times in terms of state support for higher education in Kentucky, recession and a slow recovery, and now the pension obligations continue to strain state resources in our Commonwealth. Higher education institutions have suffered major reductions in state support, and you've heard me talk about that at Rooster Booster events over the years. And while our costs have risen and the KEYS scholarship has not been able to keep pace and the state's not been able to add new funding to that KEYS scholarship, and we've watched student loan debt become a national problem, not just in the Commonwealth, but across our nation as well. Enrollments on all of our campuses across KCTCS and the 8 public universities have tapered, including our enrollments here in Owensboro. And while stable at most of our universities, there isn't the growth that we experienced throughout the 2000s, the late 2000s, the early 2000s, from about 2000 to about 2010. There is significant growth at WKU and elsewhere, but there is a great strain on resources that is inhibiting that growth to continue in the future. Part of that's due to a declining high school population in Kentucky, and that decline is expected for another 8 or 10 years before it levels out and starts back in a growth curve. And it's forcing us to look outside our Kentucky borders for enrollments, out-of-state students, international students, in order to ensure that we have the diversity and the financial capacity to continue to strengthen the value of our degrees. We're also addressing an improving job market, which is a great thing. One of the reasons we existed as a university is to drive Kentucky's economy. But more jobs means fewer adults and part-time learners are pursuing post-secondary education. And that's got a financial implication on what we do in higher education. And the focus has shifted more from enrollments to outcomes, meaning that we must do a better job at retaining the students we enroll and drive them to graduation. And that leads me to the next big thing, the next big reform in higher education in Kentucky as I move from the past to the present. Performance funding is the next big reform in higher education in Kentucky. This past legislative session, we passed a bill to implement a new funding strategy that will reward institutions for performance. Governor Bevin and the General Assembly created a performance funding work group early in 2016, and I was fortunate and honored to be asked to chair that work group. I guess with my retirement, everybody figured I could be a bit more objective and a bit more neutral in how we approached that work, and that certainly proved to be the case. We worked throughout the summer and last fall to come up with a model which all of our public universities and KCTCS institutions could support, and I'm pleased that the legislature passed into law the funding proposal precisely as that work group recommended it. The governor signs that performance funding bill into law next week at a ceremony at the Capitol, and I look forward to being there with him to sign that bill into law. The basic tenets of performance funding will create a more level playing field for all universities in terms of per student funding. Will reward graduation volume and rates across our institutions. Will pay more for degrees awarded in high demand STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, plus health fields, and will measure and reward persistence, credit hours earned, transfers, the success of low-income and underrepresented minority students, and there will be a modest redistribution of the current nearly $1 billion that the state spends on higher education in Kentucky these days. But some universities will prosper in a performance funding model or improve their financial portion of that higher ed appropriation, and others may lose some funding based on their performance in the redistribution of that higher education budget. But that's the nature of rewarding performance as the driver for state appropriated funds for higher education. The General Assembly and the institutions are all now in agreement that this is the best way to proceed in order to try to improve the productivity coming from our colleges and universities. WKU is well positioned because we've been focused on adding programs in the STEM plus H areas, for example. We've been focused on enrollment strategies and critical partnerships that create more opportunities for transfer students, and I'm proud to say that WKU leads the 8 universities in Kentucky in the number of transfer students from KCTCS institutions, because we're surrounded by great KCTCS institutions across our primary footprint in Owensboro and Elizabethtown and Madisonville and Hopkinsville and Henderson, and we're very fortunate because of our geography, including OCTC. We're well positioned because of our volume, now graduating some 4,200 students a year across all 4 of our campuses. But our graduation rate is 52%. It's better than the 36% it was that I inherited in 1997, but still far short of where we need to be and where Kentucky needs us to be in terms of the rate at which our students are graduating. So we still have a considerable work to do, and as we do improve those rates, our position in that performance funding model, which, by the way, 52% is near the top of institutions in Kentucky, so that puts that in some context. We all have work to do in that regard. This funding model will be phased in over the next 3 years. It actually begins July 1, in just a couple of weeks. By 2020, 100% of the higher education funding from the state will flow through this performance funding model. Until then, there are some mechanisms in place to protect those institutions that are likely to be hit with reductions due to falling short in the various performance funding measures when compared to the other campuses. But those safety nets will phase out in 2020. There's a hold harmless clause for Kentucky State, for example, because of they've got to achieve some things in order to be able to compete in a performance funding model. And then there's what we call a stop loss that limits the decline in funding that could come about for the next couple of years at 1% and then 2% before those safety nets phase out in 2020. And then every 3 years or so, a work group will be formed and the model will be reviewed and tweaked if necessary. Measuring performance is important to Kentucky, and we all must have incentives to improve what we do to serve our Commonwealth. The 8 public universities are competing against each other in one 4-year sector, so we're all grouped together, and we will compete, as will the 16 community and technical colleges in the KCTCS sector. So each of those 2 sectors starts with each sector's share of the current higher ed appropriation. So that's the starting point, and then how those funds might be redistributed will be determined each year based on the previous year's performance. The key to success in this performance funding model, however, will be new money appropriated to higher education going forward. Hopefully, the work later this year on tax reform and pension reform will leave our Commonwealth in a better financial position. Governor Bevin has made it clear that he will call a special session to address tax reform, particularly focused on also reforming our state employee pension system, which is running a significant deficit, and it's going to take about $750 million annually to begin to stabilize our pension system. But what I'm hopeful, and I'm pleased that Governor Bevin has made it clear that tax reform in Kentucky the intent is to generate revenue. I've always been puzzled by the thought of revenue neutral tax reform. I'm kind of like, well, what's the point of that? So I'm optimistic that if tax reform can indeed generate additional revenue, that not only can we address the pension deficit, but higher education might be a beneficiary of additional revenues generated through tax reform. So that remains to be seen, but I'm optimistic. And so let's look ahead for just a few minutes. As I look to the future, it'll be important that WKU remain engaged in this region and seek to grow programs that contribute to the continued economic development of what I consider Kentucky's other golden triangle, or perhaps a golden rectangle, as I would describe it. Owensboro, Elizabethtown, Glasgow. Am I supposed to do something with that? Just a prop, okay. Owensboro, Elizabethtown, Glasgow, Bowling Green. To me, that's the golden rectangle in Kentucky. Congressman Guthrie, that kind of reflects the 2nd Congressional District as I look at my geography. So you happen to be the envy of every other congressman from Kentucky because you got it all right here in your district, as far as I'm concerned and as far as Western Kentucky University is concerned. But our goal is to improve the quality of life in WKU's primary service area through public service and raising the educational attainment level of our citizens. There are about 26 or 28 counties that form this geographic heart of WKU's mission, and our partnership with OCTC to create seamless transfer for students coming from OCTC. Our joint admissions agreement with OCTC and several other area community colleges, our engagement in area high schools is critical, and our collaboration with area employers like Owensboro Health Regional Hospital. These are the ways that WKU will continue to contribute to Owensboro and Davis County's prosperity, and I think our shared future is exceedingly bright. But we want to boost your capacity to achieve your economic goals and to improve the quality of life in your community. That's why we exist as a public university. And I can assure you that WKU's commitment to this community is strong. It has been for the last 20 years and will be for the next 20 years and beyond. I have no doubt about that. Your commitment to WKU is tremendous, and for both, our commitment here and your commitment to Western Kentucky University is terrific, and I'm grateful for that. No matter how international WKU becomes, no matter how many international students we enroll or international collaborations we create, and that's very important for our students from Kentucky to have that global context in their higher education experience and become citizens of the globe and understand the global dynamics that affect our everyday life every day. I mean, we pick up any newspaper, any television, radio report, what happens in another country instantly affects us and vice versa. And I want our students at WKUO or wherever they are within WKU's system to be citizens of the globe. But no matter how international we become, our friends in this golden rectangle are our priority. We exist to drive our regional economy, to identify and solve problems in our region, and to improve the quality of life for everyone within this region. And we want to attract and retain and graduate students from the great high schools that serve the heartbeat of WKU's student body. With the exception of Jefferson County, the 4 top producing counties for WKU students make up the geographic corners of this golden rectangle: Davis, Hardin, Barron, and Warren counties. Some 25% of WKU student body hails from those 4 counties alone, and 50% comes from all the counties that fall within those corners of this golden rectangle. And when you add in Louisville and Nashville, you're up to 70% of WKU student body. So this is the heartbeat of WKU. I want to talk just a second on a personal perspective. When I began my duties at WKU in 1997, I assured everyone then that this would be my home. This would be our passion, both Julie and me. And I've been so fortunate to have lived out that passion for these last 20 years. And it has been a passion for us. We have been all in for everything WKU, but all in for everything Kentucky. But 20 years has been a good run for me as president of a major university. The world is different today than it was when I started this job, Sarah, 20 years ago. And if I were someone in my mid-40s, I'd be ready to tackle some of the challenges that await us, but I'm not. And so I look forward to other adventures and other opportunities, and I'm proud to turn the reins of Western Kentucky University over to Dr. Tim Caboni, who is currently the Vice President for Public Affairs at the University of Kansas, who will begin his duties on July 1. But the time is right. I'm pleased to be able to go out on my terms, to go out on top, if you will, and to ensure a smooth and pleasant transition of leadership. And I can assure you that not every major university has the opportunity to have a smooth and pleasant transition of leadership. And there's no way I would ever allow my university to be in a position where it would be anything other than fun and pleasant and celebratory. These last few months have been wonderful with much to celebrate. Going through a lot of lasts these days, last this, last that, but it has been terrific, and it's been so gratifying to be able to have this opportunity to share this moment with everybody who makes up this university family. But our future is bright and strong. I do look forward to just being a fan and a loyal alumnus, and as I've told a lot of people over the last few months that when I'm just a loyal alumnus and hanging out, I can yell whatever I want at the referee, and it won't matter. I won't be I might be accountable. They might still kick me out, I guess, but I look forward to just being a fan and an alumnus. And I hope you join me for many years to come in support of Western Kentucky University, our university, your university, in this golden rectangle of Kentucky. I'm not, however, ready for a rocking chair. On January 1, I will become the president of the Semester at Sea program, which is based out of Fort Collins, Colorado. Julie and I built a home in Bowling Green 4 or 5 years ago, and we've now fully moved into that home. And that will be home for us. But I do look forward to this next adventure, and it allows me the opportunity to be fully engaged in higher education and to continue to pursue my passions for internationalization. But I don't have to be on some other campus saying the same things I've been saying for the last 20 years and act like I would mean it, because I couldn't, and I wouldn't. My passions are not transferable to any other institution. There's only one university as far as I'm concerned, and it's the university that I've been fortunate to serve for these last 20 years. But going to and I've been on the board for Semester at Sea for a few years, and that's a global, the world's leading study abroad program where 600 American college students board a ship for a full 4-month semester, circumnavigate the globe with about 12 ports of call throughout that voyage, and they earn 15 hours of college credit through Colorado State University, which is the academic partner, because students have to earn credit from an accredited university. And so that's why I'm going to be based out of Fort Collins, Colorado, where there's a staff of about 60 people, and it's about a $65 million a year financial operation. And every semester you recruit a new student body and a new faculty of about 30 faculty, kind of an all-star faculty across American higher education, and a student affairs staff of about 20 people. The crew of about 180 people on the ship remains on the ship, and that's under contract. But it's an amazing program, and it's life-changing for students to have the opportunity to earn 15 hours of credit on board a ship, circling the globe, stopping in countries all over the globe as part of their learning experience and the courses they take on that ship. So I look forward to that opportunity. My days will start with a weather report and a State Department report, depending on where the ship might be somewhere on the globe. But I'll be recruiting students, recruiting faculty, and raising money. Sounds familiar. And it will be a great new adventure for us. So I've signed a 5-year contract, and we'll do that for a while. But I can assure you, Kentucky is home. And we will be back in Bowling Green full-time in a few years, and we'll be back off and on. And I look forward to being back in Kentucky and to coming back to Owensboro as often as I possibly can in the future. Our deep roots and loyalties are evenly divided. As I've said to some folks lately, Julie and I first are Americans, then we're Kentuckians, and then we're Hilltoppers. And we will defend and support the noble values and the virtues of all three of those noble enterprises as long as we live. And we're so fortunate to be able to live in a nation and in a commonwealth and to be associated with a university that brings out the best in us and brings our passions and emotions to the surface. And I've performed these duties and pursued these duties and not been afraid to express those emotions in that WKU spirit in the pursuit of what we've been about. So please accept my sincere thanks to everyone in Owensboro and Davis County for your support, your collaboration, your partnership, and most of all, your friendship. And I must finish with some thoughts to thank Gene Tice. Gene, for your leadership. You stepped forward at a time when this campus needed leadership, and you have performed it admirably, you and your team at WKU Owensboro. And I want to thank Scott Williams at OCTC. We have a great partnership. So Scott, thank you. And finally, I want to thank Father Larry Hostetler of Brescia and my dear friend Bart Darrell at Kentucky Wesleyan. I've been fortunate to work with Larry for several years, and I've been fortunate to work with a few presidents at Kentucky Wesleyan over the years, but I tell you, you got it right this time. You got it right this time. I've known Bart for a long time. He's been close to our family, and it doesn't get any better than Bart Darrell. So Bart, congratulations, my friend. Keep it going. Thank you, Owensboro. You're terrific. I look forward to getting back as often as I can, and let's get it going. Go Tops. Thank you.